History is full of objects and decisions that carry more attitude, irony, and consequence than the textbook version ever shows. In these 8 stories, a vase, a vote, a mascot, and a resignation all reveal how the past really worked. An ancient Greek vase carries a taunting inscription written by the painter himself on the finished work. The words are not on a separate tag or note, they are part of the object, fused to the art that survived. That means the painter used the vase as his own message board, aiming a jab at a fellow artist directly on the pottery. The insult stayed attached to the finished artwork, so the rivalry was preserved when the vase itself was preserved. What survives now is a single object that keeps both the image and the taunt, centuries after the artists are gone. A 16th century painting was built from a sultan's own description of himself as a god. The image did not begin as pure invention. The ruler's words guided what the artist was meant to show. That description carried a divine claim. It presented the sultan as a god, and the painting followed that idea. Because the ruler's self-description set the terms, the portrait became more than likeness. It became a ruler-made image of authority. What survives is a painting shaped by royal self-presentation, where description and image meet in one object. The sultan's claim still sits inside the art. Mary Scott, Countess of Deloraine, ripped off a court rival's headdress and mocked her baldness in front of everyone. At court, clothing was never just decoration. A headdress signaled rank, taste, and whether a woman could hold her place in public. Mary did not stop at the gesture. She followed it with a direct insult about the woman being bald, turning the attack into a public humiliation. Because it happened at court, the insult carried social weight beyond the moment. Witnesses saw appearance and status turned into a weapon. The incident survives as a sharp example of court rivalry, where a headdress could be removed and a baldness taunt could land in public. Arizona rejected a 2010 ballot measure by just 194 votes out of more than 1.5 million cast. More than 1.5 million Arizonans voted on the measure statewide. It was a huge electorate for a result that tight. The margin was the mechanism. 194 votes separated rejection from passage. That gap was smaller than a small precinct's turnout. Because the margin was so narrow, the statewide result went to rejection. No county-sized difference was needed to settle it. In the final count, a few hundred ballots outweighed 1.5 million votes. Arizona's 2010 decision ended on a number small enough to fit in a headline. Pieces of Atlanta's Carnegie Library were reused as vehicle barricades after demolition. The Carnegie Library had already been taken down, but its material did not leave the city. Some of the building pieces were kept for a different use. Those pieces were reused as vehicle barricades, turning building stone into street defense. A library wall segment became a physical barrier. That changed the material's job completely. What had once held books now held back vehicles. The old library survived as a city object, not a building. Its pieces stayed in use on the street, where people met a barrier instead of a facade. Bernard Goldfine's gift-giving helped force a White House chief of staff to step down. The gifts were not treated as a private favor once they reached the White House. They became a matter for staff at the center of government. The problem moved upward because the chief of staff was now connected to the gifts. That link made the arrangement politically damaging. The White House could not keep the issue contained. The chief of staff stepped down. A gift exchange ended as a public resignation at the top of government. The consequence was not about the package itself, but the office it touched. More than 30 grooved stone pillars still stand at Horvat Sumica, and nobody has a confirmed explanation for what they were for. The site is archaeologically documented, so these pillars are not a rumor or a loose fragment. They are real remains, preserved in place enough to be studied. What makes them stand out is the grooves cut into the stone. That unusual shaping is the detail investigators can measure, but not yet connect to one settled use. Because the pillars survive without a matching explanation, the site preserves a documented object whose purpose remains open. The evidence is solid, but the function is not. That leaves Horvat Sumica with a rare kind of record, a surviving structure, visible in stone, whose original function still has no agreed answer. Ridgeview High School chose a mascot with a local museum, and it honors the P-40 Warhawk. The P-40 Warhawk was a World War II fighter plane. That made the mascot more than a school symbol. Ridgeview and the museum selected it collaboratively. The choice linked the school to a documented piece of wartime aviation history.
That collaboration turned branding into remembrance.
A school identity now pointed back to an aircraft from the war.
The result was a mascot chosen for history as well as school spirit.
Its meaning comes from the P-40 Warhawk, not from a random name. If one of these details surprised you, the full set is worth the watch. Subscribe for more factual history, and comment which moment changed how you see the past.